Moses in the CIA.
I'm Moses, Ken Mosesian, and like my ancestor, I'm all about training individuals, teams, and companies how to lead. Now, I've joined forces with the CIA.
I'm Dan Crum, known as the CIA, and I can help you win your best deal every time through my sales training, the CIA method. Join us as we talk about topics of life and business from two unique perspectives. Hello, Ken. How are you this fantastic evening? I'm calling it evening.
You can call it evening because with the lack of sunshine this time of year, even in sunny Phoenix, it is getting dark. I'm doing great, Dan. Never better, actually. How about yourself, my friend? How are you?
I am excellent. But you know what would make it even more excellent is if we were in person. What is that all about?
And nothing can substitute for in person. There's something about the nuance of being there, being able to give a good friend a hug, being able to just be present to somebody physically, absolutely the best thing in the world. But I had an amazing experience this past weekend. The firm that I'm working for, the law firm that I'm working for now, had our Christmas party, and we're a hybrid firm. We've got, and this was even pre-pandemic. We had about 25% of the team in office and 75% spread out around the country and actually around the globe. And the pandemic turned it into a virtual firm. And then over the past year, people have been coming back to the office, and now we're back to the way it was. This past weekend, we flew everyone in to be together for the first time since 2019. And it was absolutely extraordinary. And there were three things that really stood out for me. The first one was because we've worked so hard to promote a culture of relatedness, even virtually, because we worked so hard on that. What we ended up doing was creating something that would endure even though people were apart from each other. And the thing that was a great sign of that was when people got together, they literally picked up where like all of their team's messaging had left off only a day before. And I thought that's a great sign. It's not like people were meeting each other for the first time. Oftentimes I've seen with clients that I've had in a virtual work environment, people don't have that sense of relatedness. They communicate with each other, they talk with each other, they work with each other, but there isn't that sense of relatedness because there isn't engagement. And I think what we've succeeded at is creating an engaged team. So even virtually, they feel related to one another. And then when we came together, it just enhanced all of that good work that we got done. People were together all day Saturday. Some people hung out on Sunday as well. Today, everybody was back at work, and it was as if the party and that great high that we all had from being together continued. All the messaging today, people sharing photos, like you could feel the laughter even through the medium of messaging. And I've never been prouder of a team of people to be able to, number one, create that sense of relatedness and engagement. Number two, enjoy it when they're in person and use that to enhance relationships. And then number three, continue it as everyone went back to their individual offices. So, man, in person, nothing like it, but it is possible for people to create a virtual environment that also promotes engagement and relatedness.
So one of my clients mentioned they had gone to I don't know if it was a fundraiser, but some sort of event that had a lot of high-level individuals, people who were, on TV and movies, on the radio, I don't know, things like that. People that you would know by name. And one of their comments, these happen to be taller individuals, said, "We were amazed how short everybody was." And I'm sure that's just what they noticed. I'm sure there weren't all short people. And I apologize to all the short people out there. But that's what they noticed. But I guess my point was, we tend to make, specifically in movie theaters, when people went through those, we would make these people on the screen larger than life in our heads. Like, wow, look at this specimen of a person. Aren't they incredible? Look at this superhero they play in this thing. And then when you meet them, you're like, wow, this person's not as impressive as they were what I imagined on the screen. And it brought me back to the number of people that I've had as clients or interacted with in companies that, when the first time that I meet them, despite having maybe spent hours with them over Zoom or some sort of video chatting platform, was amazed that they were very different in person than they were that I even thought, having seen them on the screen. And I guess to me, what it comes to is that we do our best to formulate impressions, but we're limited by the two dimension, right? And in video chatting, we're even limited more by the cropping, because most people are cropped chest up or waist up at best. Sometimes we see some hand expressions. Sometimes a lot of people are like just pressing video off and all we can hear is their voice. And I think back to the time before video was even a popular way of communicating, and it was just all over the phone. And think about, you had to imagine what people look like. And we created all of this stuff. There was this one woman that I interacted with a lot. She was in a bunch of meetings, and it was the exact opposite of what these people had the impression, because I imagined her to be really tiny and meek, and she was like 6 foot tall. And I was like, holy cow, it just like took me by surprise. So you form all these impressions based on the limited amount of information you had. And I just, like, imagine by her personality, this is what she'll be like, but size-wise, very different. So anyway, in person can be very different. So don't be deceived by the voice you hear on the phone, and don't be deceived by that image you just see up on the screen.
So one of the team members had just impressed me with like her dedication, thoroughness to all matters. She's a paralegal and case manager, and I thought, man, there's something about her that's really special. But our conversations were really pretty focused on work-related stuff. Well, when we got together, and everyone got together at in our hotel suite first to get photos shot for the website. And I was asking her, she was looking forward to just relaxing, having a good time, having a drink, enjoying some amazing food. We had this amazing catered party. And she said she'd be having water and salad. And I asked her why. And she said, I'm competing tomorrow. And there was something that kind of opened up, because even though we had this amazing rapport in terms of work-related stuff, I think because of the high-paced nature or the fast-paced nature of the work that we do in fertility law, how important and detailed it is, most of the exchanges tend to deal with work. Well, it turns out that she is a jiu-jitsu champion, and she was competing on a global stage, like literally for a world championship. And she had to stay within a particular weight limit. She was 0.5 pounds, half a pound away from the maximum that she could be. And so she had to be super careful, because the next day she was going to go and compete. And this morning, we got a picture of her on the center block, having won the gold medal, world champion jiu-jitsu. And, of course, my first thought was like, we can use this in terms of legal cases. It's like, do not make me send her in, because she will choke you out in 5 seconds flat. But it was so amazing to get to know another aspect of a person, not just physical thing, like you pointed out, Dan. That's sometimes really eye-opening too, because when you're seeing little thumbnails on Zoom, you don't get a full picture of who that person is. But to actually get to know not just who they are in the context of the work that we do together, but to get to know who they are in the context of to get to know who they are as a whole person. That was just extraordinary. And then to see everyone just pour on the accolades and the congratulations for what she had accomplished. And fact is, we now know something about her that will enhance our knowledge and our interactions with her, because we know the dedication that it took for her to be able to get to world champion level for a martial art. And now that in-person gathering has altered in a super positive way my impression of who she is and my knowledge of who she is. And so our interactions now are richer for it. It's a very long way of saying, if there are opportunities to bring your teams together, your virtual teams together, even once a year for a reunion, for a meeting where they can just be with each other, enjoy each other, get to know each other. We had the spouses there too. Everyone had a great time. And I think there was something about really getting to see, know, talk to that other person in a way that goes far beyond work and far beyond the confines of a Zoom thumbnail. But like you said, Dan, with most people, not most, who knows, a lot of people not even opting for the video portion of it now, just this disembodied voice that's floating on your screen. Man, what a great thing to do if you're at the C-suite level, if you're a decision maker in your company and you can bring people together. And maybe if it's a large company, you can't bring everybody together all at once, but you can have meetings around the country or around the globe, depending on where you're situated. And there's smaller ones. Do that so you can build and enhance on the kind of relatedness that's so essential for employees to be genuinely engaged with each other.
So when I coach people, and specifically one of the tools I mentioned many times is hypnosis, a lot of people will contact me who are outside the area or a little bit outside the area. Maybe they're 45 minutes away from me. So far enough where it's like the decision is, do I want to drive to see you in person? And the difference is a lot. It's hard to quantify. And they always say, does it matter? And what I write on my website is, no, the experience will be exactly the same. If we're just talking about hypnosis, if the person closes their eyes and wears headphones, it's very similar to me being next to them and this listening through their ears to me speaking in the same room as them. So the experience can be very similar. But I'd argue the difference is a lot, because exactly what Ken was talking about, the number of things that get brought up when there's like the whole person, right? And it could be like a subtle thing. You might see somebody wearing a pair of shoes and then it brings up a topic that you wouldn't have brought up because that wasn't available. Like Ken, you're eating with somebody and you get to see what they eat, where before that was not part of the Zoom meeting, is when you eat, right? So in person to me is tremendously better. The connection you can have with people is tremendously better. In fact, a lot of companies, probably when we started doing these podcasts, companies for the first time probably in history were adopting the flexibility to say, yep, work from home. And then as some started to come back, they quickly backtracked on that and said, no, maybe we'll do flexible, a couple days here, a couple days at home. But now you're already seeing it. It's also the nature of the economy, is that people are saying, let's come back to work. Because even though it can be successful, just like hypnosis can work without me being in the room with you, it just works way better in person. So I encourage each of you, if you have an opportunity, go in person. What relates to me is, funny enough, a doctor's visit. I didn't even know doctors could do remote visits, but apparently they can, because when I had something, they're like, would you like to do a remote appointment? I'm like, a remote appointment? How is the doctor supposed to do anything? And when I thought about it, I was like, I guess if they're not taking blood, and a lot of things they could just ask me and I could answer the same way if I was sitting there in person. So, but if you have a chance and it's not too inconvenient, I would say go in and be in person. And this also reminds me of a conversation that I had with my father recently. And it was just a difference in personality. He was asking about making a trip, and from where he lives on the East Coast all the way to the West Coast for something, and it's related to family. And in this trip, he was asking my opinion. He's like, "Do you really think I need to make the trip to go do that?" And we just see things differently. And what he tried to explain to me is, I'm just as happy just jumping on a phone call with this person or doing FaceTime with this person. Do I really need to be there in person? And again, it's up to you to decide this answer. But my opinion is, if somebody matters to you, if the situation is important to you, you're going to get way more out of it going through the additional effort to be there in person, even if you think you could get the same effect being remote.
So I was laughing when you're talking about the telemedicine thing. It's incredibly convenient. We're members of a group that offers telemedicine as part of the benefit of being with them. And there was one day where I felt horrible. I didn't want to drive anywhere, and being able to just get on a video call, talk through my symptoms, and have them phone in a prescription for me, get that, pick that up. Man, it was super convenient. Obviously, turn your head and cough. You can't really do that remotely unless you're doing it yourself. That's a whole different video, I think. But there is something valuable about the in-person with medicine. And I went to see my doctor for something the other day, and it was in the course of a conversation in his office, sitting in a chair, one-on-one with him, where all of a sudden there was something else that kind of got surfaced. And the more we talked about it, the more we realized we should probably get a blood test and check that. And so I agree with you on the medicine front, but just on virtually every front. If you can do it in person, there is something about that I think is richer. The thing that was most telling for me, like what that person eats, it's fascinating because you have this, and I've talked about this multiple times too, and I talk about this with my coaching clients. What is our already always listening for someone? What is our already always listening? What is our judgment of how someone looks, talks, their mannerisms, how they dress, what they eat, what they drink? And I found myself thinking, oh, that's interesting. They just take little bits of everything and move on. Other people, it's like, oh, they do a full plate this time. And then what somebody drinks, it's like, a tequila person. I don't know what that means. But in my mind, I was just thinking, you're a tequila person. I wouldn't have pegged you for a tequila person. And it was just like tequila, neat. It wasn't like margarita. Every one of the people that walked through the line or went up to the bar, all of a sudden, I found myself just having a different way of looking at them. You like tequila. You really enjoy vodka. You like drinking white wine. It's a cold winter night. I thought you would have been a red wine person. It's ridiculous and goofy stuff. But the cool thing out of it is that one person has been incredibly helpful to me during my onboarding time. And now that I know they're a tequila person, I'm going to send them a really nice bottle of tequila. So it's just one more little piece of information that I got to add to the puzzle that helps sort of flesh out the totality of who these people are. And now we have more common ground on which we relate. We have more, and I'm getting self-conscious about using my hands after you said some people talk with their hands. But I talk with my hands. We have more common ground on which to relate. What you like to eat, what you like to drink, your mannerisms, what you wear, all those different things now just sort of flesh out, complete the picture of who this person is besides just their work persona. And one of the things that came out of it was revamping the website to have biz bios and to have personal bios. So on one side, here's the person with their, coat and tie or with their business suit on, whatever it happens to be, their experience that's work related. On the other side, maybe the person loves to go mountain climbing, and here they are climbing a mountain in all that gear, and we get a bio about who they are just as a human being. So I think it always comes back to, remote work, it was great when we needed to do it. It was so cool that we had this technology available. But man, there is something wondrous about being in person, even if it's only once a year. Do whatever you can to bring your people together in person.
So my first book was called Is He Lying to You? And I wrote a follow-up after called the faceless liar. It's like, how do you determine if someone's lying over, text, chat, things like that when you can't actually see their face? But going back to this subject today, in person is way better. It's actually like this whole person concept where if you have the chance to be with somebody in person and you're trying to determine if what they're telling you is the truth, it's very important that you can see their entire body. And so, what that means for you is if you get to so choose, pull a chair out from behind the desk, have just two chairs facing each other, because you get to see a lot about, I call it start with a win. A win means what is normal. You get to see not just what is normal in the way they speak, but you get to see what is normal with the way they're using their body in that mindset that they're in. And with just this video, it's very difficult. Obviously, with a voice, it's very difficult. But if you get to have the person, their whole body in front of you, you get to watch their gestures, not just with their hands that we talked about, but with their how they cross their legs, how they lean forward or lean back. If they slouch, they do different things. So then what you're looking for, the simple thing is when you ask certain targeted questions, you're trying to sell if someone's telling you the truth, you look for a win again. You look for what isn't normal. So a lot of people call it establishing a baseline. So when you're chit-chatting and you're just talking about stuff, you can watch their entire body and how it gestures, moves, sits, slouches, does whatever. And then when you ask that targeted question, you get to see what isn't normal, what changes. Because when people lie, they have what's called a stress response. And the stress response manifests itself in the body. So you've heard of like fight or flight, and there's also freeze. You'll see what used to be a gesture suddenly freeze up. They stop using that part of their body. You'll see somebody who starts to feel uncomfortable and starts to shift a certain way. It's almost like they're fleeing, they're trying to run away. You'll see all these like people start to fight. So they go from being laid back to be more like aggressive in your face. So that's my quick education on why it's so important to be in person. If you want to know if someone's telling you the truth, be with them in person.
Thank you for listening. To learn more, check out mosesinthecia.com. To learn more about Ken Mosesian, check out mosesian.com. To learn more about Dan Crum, check out dancrum.com.